We are the only species on this pale blue dot that has learned to lift its head, not to hunt for prey or to navigate the terrain, but to search for meaning. For centuries, we raised majestic cathedrals with spires that sought to pierce the clouds, believing that the demiurge dwelt there, beyond the veil of the visible. Later, we traded stone for metal and glass, building the giant mirrors of telescopes to finally gaze into those very heavens. But the irony is that the more we learn, the louder the silence becomes. Blaise Pascal, the 17th century mathematical genius who laid the foundations of probability theory and invented the first calculating machine, once set aside his computations. He looked up at the night sky and penned a phrase that still echoes through the corridors of modern observatories. Le silence éternel de ces espaces infinis m'effraie. The eternal silence of these infinite spaces terrifies me. Why did the silence terrify a genius? Because in it, he heard no answer. Pascal understood what every astrophysicist feels today while analyzing data from the James Webb Space Telescope: our absolute, almost mathematical insignificance. Science tells us we are merely carbon-based life forms on the fringes of an ordinary galaxy, one among billions. Religion, however, stubbornly insists that we are the crown of creation, the object of God's singular attention. At first glance, this is an irreconcilable war. But today, we look behind the scenes of this battle. We will see how Maxwell's equations describing the nature of light begin to resemble sacred texts, and how black holes serve as physical evidence of something existing beyond our three-dimensional comprehension. Is the cosmos merely random noise in a vacuum, or is it a coded message written in the language of geometry? Let us attempt to read the first lines of this cipher.
Quest for knowledge.
Until the dawn of the 20th century, science was convinced the universe was eternal. It simply was, is, and always would be. This was a comfortable position for atheistic science. After all, if the universe has no beginning, it requires no creator. Even the great Albert Einstein, in his early works, introduced a cosmological constant, specifically so his equations would reflect a static, unchanging world. But in 1927, a man stepped onto the stage whose very biography seemed like a paradox: Georges Lemaitre, a professor of physics at the University of Leuven and simultaneously a Catholic priest in a black cassock. While studying general relativity, he noticed what Einstein stubbornly ignored. The mathematics screamed that the universe must either be expanding or contracting. It could not stand still. Lemaitre went further. He wound the cosmic clock backward. If the universe is expanding, then billions of years ago it must have been small, then smaller still. At the very end or the very beginning, it must have been compressed into a single point. Lemaitre called it the primeval atom. He described the moment when space and time were born out of nothing, a day without a yesterday. That is what he called it. When he presented his theory to Einstein, the genius was incensed. "Your calculations are correct, but your physics is abominable," he exclaimed. Einstein sensed a religious scent in this theory. The scientific world suspected Lemaitre of trying to retrofit science to the opening lines of the book of Genesis, and God said, "Let there be light." Yet Lemaitre remained steadfast. He wasn't looking for miracles in test tubes. He was seeking truth in equations. It was only years later, when Edwin Hubble observed through his telescope that galaxies were indeed drifting apart, that Einstein admitted his mistake. He stood up during one of Lemaitre's lectures and remarked, "This is the most beautiful and satisfactory explanation of creation to which I have ever listened." Here lies the first mystical riddle. If science has confirmed that the universe had a beginning, what exactly provided that first spark? Physics halts at the Planck epoch, behind which stands a wall of the unknown. Religion calls this God. Perhaps these are simply two different names for the same act of being's self-expression. Let us now plunge into the domain where even the staunchest skeptics begin to feel a chill down their spine: the fine-tuning of the universe. Imagine a cosmic control panel featuring dozens of levers. One controls the strength of gravity, another the speed of light, a third the mass of the electron. Astrophysicist Sir Fred Hoyle, a distinguished scientist and a staunch atheist, once researched how heavy elements, specifically carbon, are forged in the hearts of stars. Without carbon, there is no organic chemistry. Without organic chemistry, there is no us. Hoyle discovered that carbon is synthesized only through an incredibly rare resonance of nuclear energies. If the strong nuclear force were even 2% stronger or weaker, carbon would simply never form. The universe would remain a barren expanse of hydrogen and helium, a wasteland with no chance for life. Hoyle was so struck by this precision that his belief in a random cosmos was shaken. He famously noted, "A common-sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics as well as with chemistry and biology." And this is but one example. If the expansion rate of the universe 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in a billion, the universe would have collapsed back under the force of gravity billions of years ago. If it had been larger by that same infinitesimal fraction, matter would have scattered so rapidly that stars and galaxies would never have formed. We are living on the edge of a razor. The British astronomer royal Martin Rees argues in his book Just Six Numbers that our entire world rests on 6 fundamental constants. Should any one of them be adjusted by even a jot, the universe would become either a black hole or an empty fog. Mathematician Roger Penrose calculated the probability of our universe emerging by chance in a state capable of supporting life. The number is 1 divided by 110 to the 123 power. There are not enough atoms in the entire universe to write out this number with zeros. This is more than a miracle. It appears as though someone knew we were coming. Are we a random coincidence in an infinite chaos, or are we the ultimate goal of a grand design? Albert Einstein was often besieged by both religious fundamentalists and militant atheists, each desperate to claim him as their own. When pressed directly on his faith, his answers remained as profound as his theories. "I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who concerns himself with the fates and actions of human beings." For Einstein, the cosmos was not a soulless machine. He perceived it as a manifestation of perfect order. He likened humanity to a child entering a vast library filled with books written in many languages. The child knows that someone must have written those books. She does not understand the languages in which they are written, but she notices a distinct rhythmic order in how they are arranged. This cosmic religious feeling was the primary engine of Einstein's science. He believed that without a faith in the rationality and intelligibility of the world, science would be impossible. The most incomprehensible thing about the world is that it is at all comprehensible, he famously remarked. How is it that a handful of gray matter, evolved solely to forage for food, can grasp the curvature of space-time or the complexities of quantum fields? Isaac Newton, before penning his Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica, spent years studying the structure of Solomon's temple and biblical texts. He believed gravity was the very mechanism by which God sustains the world. Michael Faraday and James Clerk Maxwell, the titans who harnessed electricity and magnetism, were men of deep faith. To them, scientific discovery was not a contradiction of divinity, but a form of prayer.
They were not looking to refute God, they were searching for His handwriting. Today, we compartmentalize our existence: science in the laboratory, faith in the sanctuary. But for the great minds of the past, these were inseparable. They believed the universe was a thought expressed in matter, and if we are capable of understanding that thought, it implies that we share something fundamental with its author.
Today, we stand at the threshold where physics becomes indistinguishable from mysticism. Quantum mechanics tells us something truly extraordinary. At the fundamental level, particles have no definite state until they are observed. The observer creates reality. Without the act of observation, the world remains merely a cloud of probabilities. John Wheeler, one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century, proposed the concept of the participatory universe. He sketched a U shape representing the universe, where at one end lies the Big Bang, and at the other, the human eye, gazing back through time. We are not mere passengers. We are the ones who make this universe real by bearing witness to it. Nobel laureate Roger Penrose hints in his work that consciousness is not a mere byproduct of evolution. Perhaps it is woven into the very fabric of space-time. And theories about the multiverse only deepen the mystery. Why, among an infinite number of dead worlds, did we find ourselves in the one where we can even ask such questions? We end our journey where Pascal began, contemplating the stars. Science has taught us how solar flares work, but it still cannot explain why the sight of them leaves us breathless. Why does one physical object, a human, feel such awe before another physical object, a galaxy? Perhaps the conflict between religion and science is but an illusion, born of our own pride. Science answers the question how, while religion strives to answer why. Like two eyes that grant us stereoscopic vision, these two spheres provide us with a fuller understanding of existence. The next time you turn off the lights and look up at the night sky, remember, you are not just a speck of dust in an infinite void. You are the way the universe has finally managed to look at itself. You are its consciousness, its voice, its prayer. Thank you for walking this path with me. Do you now feel this cipher of the Creator in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and remember, the truth is always to be found in the middle, between the light of distant stars and the depths of the human soul. Until we meet again in our next exploration of the unknown.